With Cardano dropping down 25% in the last 9 days, what can we expect next here for ADA? Obviously, at the point of recording this video, Bitcoin and Cardano are both in a bit of freefall. So I'm going to dive into the weekly, daily, and hourly charts to see what could happen next here for ADA. If you find this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. Right, with that said, done out of the way, let's dive down into this technical analysis on Cardano's ADA. So we're going to start things off with the weekly chart, guys, just to talk about this structure. Everything is still intact despite the recent pullback that we're seeing here. These pullbacks, in fact, are actually quite natural and they happen over a period of time, specifically when you go up into an overbought area or whether or not Bitcoin is just lining up for a bit of a pullback itself. Overall, you can see that there are natural pullbacks even on our third impulse wave to the upside, before we did top out up here in May of 2021. Ultimately, we can see that the structure is very good and it has aligned nicely to get us to this third wave. And again, from here, we can also see that we have started this fifth wave correction and a good push to the upside, setting new all-time highs here for Cardano. So this pullback again is natural. There's a bit of sell the news event and of course the Bitcoin being a bit volatile. So right now, I do think that the rest of the month is going to continue like this, where we end up trading sideways to line up nicely until we have a good push to the upside, where we do have some very interesting price discovery set out. Ultimately, I do think that we are likely to end up at least at $7.22, but I like to think that we can push a little bit higher for that $10 range. And again, we talk about it quite a bit on the channel, that ultimately what we see happening with Cardano is really just the beginning. What's currently happening with the smart contract launch, apps being built, and of course, we're going to see the surge of transactional volume in the very near future. Just like you saw with Solana, as soon as that transactional volume comes in, Cardano is absolutely going to surge to the upside. So we are just having to bide our time, dollar cost average better positions if that is what you want to do. And for me personally, I just have mine delegated. I earn a nice passive income and I can have a long-term vision of where this thing is going. I will be taking profits this year, but again, I'm going to be building up a very good position during the bear market too. Just not right now because the bear market is a little way off. So we are looking at the bull run kind of peaking out towards the end of the year or the beginning of 2022. Timing is always the hardest thing to gauge. You'll find very few people ever get the timing right. If you do get the timing right, then you're doing incredibly well and you're able to interpret a lot more than you and I can. With that being said, though, ultimately, I do think we are pushing to the upside nicely. We have corrected our stochastic off of this weekly chart and had a pretty significant pullback, which is actually pretty good and healthy to allow us to grow up to the upside in a really strong way next time round. So ultimately, we can take a look at where we were during this low area here of March 2020. We were oversold, pushing up into the overbought area for wave 1, oversold for wave 2, and of course, overbought for wave 3. And again, this was a turbulent one as well because of the stuff that was going on with Bitcoin, i.e. these corrections right here during this third wave to the upside. Ultimately, we were pushed all the way back down to the oversold area, back up again during this, and then recently we've actually had this pretty significant pullback here that will allow us to really grow nice and strong next time round. So ultimately, we are moving nicely on this weekly chart. Not much more I can say. The structure is still intact, still looking for a fifth wave, nothing really major to report. So let's jump down into our daily view. And it's the daily view that actually then shows us a little bit more of what's been going on. Now, there was this upward trend that we were hoping to hold, and it was broken down in the last couple of days. We can also see that we've dropped 24.96, so pretty much 25% in the last 9 days. Okay, so this is obviously a bit of a setback. Now, today we're falling a little bit harder in line with what Bitcoin is doing, i.e. being pulled down significantly hard here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what I think is likely to happen on this and where we might end up and when we might bounce up to and what could potentially happen after we get the bounce, okay? But before we get into that, I do want to just highlight the Fibonacci retracement tool that we see over here, as this kind of shows us the high of 3, the low of 4, okay? So basically $2.47 and $1. And these actually then predict out that $7.22 full extension of the 4.236 in the same way that it did for Solana with $185. Right, as we look to continue this upside here, we can obviously see that volatility. We actually almost came close up towards our first target, setting a new all-time high of $3.10. And then we obviously started to see Bitcoin pull us back down into our Fibonacci areas, bouncing from the 702, which came in line with our trend line, moving up again, just failing and falling down here. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to focus in on this action just here so we can get a bit of a grip on what is going on. Okay, so first thing we'll do is grab the Fibonacci retracement tool. We're going to grab it from the high of this wick here and the low of this wick just here. What you can see is basically unable to close above that 786, right? From the high of this wick and the low of this wick, we had the bounce. We bounced up to the 702, got rejected, and we fell down lower. We pushed right back up again, okay, failing to close above the 786, closing just above the 702, and then we're rejected here again, Bitcoin's volatility, pulling us back down to these areas. Now, what we're seeing here is actually all the kind of closed candles were in this area, right? And then we started to see a decline again. And what you saw here was then testing the trend line, failing to hold the trend line, and then Bitcoin pulling us down today. Okay, so obviously we have a bit of an idea that we're unable to get these key areas taken and held well, but where could we see things going next? So since then, we obviously have a bit of volatility. Now, we don't really know how low things are likely to go today just yet, but we are, of course, in an oversold status, so I don't think we're going to fall down too hard. Now, one of the key things that we will be looking for is to basically make sure that we don't go any lower than this particular wick here. And this is going to be one of those scenarios where we set these higher lows, right? So as long as we stay above $2, we should be looking okay. So currently tracking at $2.16. Okay, so with that, we obviously want to try to get a bit of a flavor as to where things might go. So if we actually take the high of today's candle and we actually put that on that $2 range, assuming that's going to be as low as things are likely to go, then we should be looking for a bounce back to 218 at least. Although I don't think necessarily we are falling all the way down to that $2 range, but it's a possibility. With that being said, we could actually take the top of our fib here and actually place it on the high of this green candle, and then place this one on here, for example. Therefore, if that is the bottom that we have found, we should then be looking to move up to about the $2.40 before potentially seeing another rejection. Okay, so it's always important that we don't just sell the fear and dive into, you know, losses all the time, right? Instead, I kind of wait for the bottom to be found and know where we are bouncing to. Okay, and these bounces usually go to the 618, 702, 786. In the case we had a couple of wicks actually went higher, but unable to actually hold it, right? So this is where you kind of put your buys, stops, losses, and all that kind of stuff in. But ultimately here we'll be looking for that push to the upside. Now, hopefully this is the bottom that has been found from this, what's that, 6-day range, and if that is the case, then we should be looking to bounce up to that $2.40 at least. So if you are looking to exit, there is that as a scenario. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, nor is Chris, so do your own research, but ultimately this is what I tend to see in the space. Nice bounces to the 618, 702, 786. And guys, this video has been sponsored by 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗀, and specifically the Cardano ADA pool. If you are looking to support the channel and our effort here to communicate out all the recent kind of news, articles, price changes and price action of your favorite altcoins, then there's no better way than delegating your ADA into our stake pool. By doing so, you'll not only support the channel, but you will also earn a juicy return and a nice passive income on your ADA holdings. It's really simple to do, guys. Just load up your 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗏 or Deadliest wallet, drop your ADA into the wallet, and then find the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗀 pool via the ticker 𝗕𝗘. In doing so, you'll earn a nice juicy return and support the channel. There is no better time to do so, so why not delegate to 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗏𝗀 today? Okay, so let's actually jump down into our hourly and review what is going on there in a moment. But before we do, we want to just check out the advice dashboard, what's going on with Cardano. Well, here we can see it's a B2 overall rating. And if we drop down here, we can see the fear and greed index has gone down into extreme fear. There is not a lot of greed in the market for Cardano right now. Moving averages are up at C2, so again, they're not performing very well. And profitability is still an A1, that's going to be hard to shake that one. The AMI-HAD ratio, liquidity is not a problem, and the Sharpe ratio, risk-reward ratio, is an A2 rating. So although we are getting close to our 50-day average, it's actually in our favor still. So ultimately, there's fear, and there's obviously a price action according to that fear, i.e. people are selling their ADA at a discount. And then you see these moving averages, right? And so you couple those two things along with our Sharpe ratio our profitability, liquidity, actually things are a little bit out of kilter, meaning that there's a lot of fear when there's potentially no risk to your rewards. So that's the kind of fear that I like to buy up. So knowing that the sentiment in the market is very fearful at the moment, we should be expecting some ADA at discounted rates. So buying the dip or buying the fear is something that we should be considering. Now, obviously, we're pulling down into this area here. This area is, of course, our 618, our 702, and our 786 area. Okay, so this is the area that we were battling before. So when we start thinking about where things are potentially going to be bouncing to and from, there's a couple of key areas on here, right? So I'm going to quickly just mark this one up here. Okay, so again, we've got a couple points to kind of reference. Now, I think if we do actually wick into this much deeper, then ultimately we will potentially be continuously being able to buy up that fear. With that being said, though, getting a closed candle above the 786 will still be vital for us to enable us to keep in a strong position. So we are looking to keep a closed candle above this one on the daily chart here and making sure that we stay above it. So ultimately, everything's looking pretty good. So let's jump down into our hourly. This is where we start to see the majority of that volatility. Right, if I zoom out and just bring this back down a little bit here, you can see that was a triangular wedge that we were holding, unable to hold the support of this line, and we've broken down, okay, breaking down all the way to our 786 area of our Fibonacci retracement. So right now we are looking at seeing whether or not we're going to hold this. Now, good news is that we seem to have found a bit of a bottom on our stochastic RSI, as in we are oversold. Okay, so being that we're oversold, and what we want to be looking for now is where we're going to bounce to, right? So I can again take that Fibonacci retracement tool and look for stability. We obviously had a bounce to here. That seems like a pretty sensible area, and therefore we could potentially find the resistance of 229 an interesting point to bounce up towards and get rejected from. So right now, potentially we'll look to move this back to the upside in the next few hours and potentially find that 229 before we get rejected, where I anticipate us pulling back into this area before finally getting pulled back out again. Ultimately, we don't know what Bitcoin is going to do, but things usually do bounce nice and strongly to the upside, so we'll be looking for this area here. But ultimately, we'll have to check to see that sentiment with so much fear in the space. Are we going to bounce strongly to the upside and in order to get up to the 618 area, or are we actually going to only have a mediocre bounce and actually get rejected from the 50% area and then pull back in? Okay, so at the moment, there's a lot of fear in the space. We are looking for some discounted ADA to happen here, and I think that should be pretty much given at this point. But with that being said, I do think we are going to see a nice surge to the upside in the near future, though. As I said, the structure of the weekly is still very much intact. We've got a couple more weeks left of September where we'll see the volatility, and after that, I am anticipating a good move to the upside with Bitcoin. And as a result of that, most of the altcoins are also going to fly to the upside too. So although there is a lot of volatility on the smaller time frames, it's important that we do not just act emotionally. Instead, we act rationally, use the data to our advantage. We know that dead counts do bounce, and where they bounce to is usually the 618, 702, 786. So if you are feeling incredibly fearful, draw up your own charts on TradingView. Mess around with those Fibonacci retracement areas and look for the bounces to that 618, 702, 786, and then focus in on what your strategies are. Ultimately, for me, these are an opportunity just to build a better position with ADA, and of course, just get it delegated into a stake pool. We obviously have one, so why not delegate it there? And you will earn a nice passive income on your ADA holdings as we continue this bull run to the upside in the very near future. I'm going to leave this video there, guys. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. With this being said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I will catch you all in the next one.